This video is based on a true story. These stories are based on real-life incidents. Please respect the family and friends of individuals featured on this channel. Remember to be courteous in your comments. Many details of these true stories are gory and frightening. If you do not want to hear these types of details, please do not watch this video series. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes place just a few miles south of beautiful and scenic Jasper, Alberta, Canada. The surroundings are a foreboding yet breathtaking environment of rugged mountains and deep, luscious forests. This is a land a person can easily become lost in forever. The frigid month of November 2015, two mountain climbers trudged through the knee-deep snow of the Canadian Rockies. Located near Jasper and surrounded by some of the most picturesque mountains and forests on Earth. The climb was difficult but exhilarating, as participating in their passion has led the two men to a close friendship. The goal was to climb a peak called Dirty Love, which is a climb located on Wilson Peak. It would consist of scrambles and treacherous snowfield navigation, which could present avalanche danger and crevasses. After reaching the top, the two men began the descent. The darkness of the night embraced them, as it was a new moon, meaning that the men had to use their headlamps to reveal their path. The men had left their ropes and other equipment along their descent trail to be recovered as they returned. The return trail would be complicated by a few cliff rappels the pair would have to make to get home safely, but their experience and aptitude would make it easy, barring any unexpected circumstances. Greg Boswell was an experienced Scottish adventurer and climber. As he bent down to fill his water bottle in a nearby spring before the men rappelled down the cliff, a large brown bear suddenly appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. Normally at this time of year, healthy bears are hibernating comfortably, living off the fat they've built up through their summer foraging. The bears seemed surprised and acted in perceived self-defense by attacking. Back near the rappelling point, Nick Bullock was lost in the exhilarating memory of the trek when he was shaken back to the terrified yelling of his companion. "Bear!" he heard struggle from Greg's mouth as he scurried past. The light of Nick's headlamp flashed a confusing scene of his friend's arms and legs scrambling to create distance between him and the confused and now enraged bear. Nick was in awe of the powerful beast as it churned through the snow in pursuit of his friend. As it blurred past Nick, the bear glanced at him, and his knees felt as if they would buckle from fear. At that point his companion had tripped, which refocused the bear's rage. Nick took this as his cue to beat feet. He sprinted in the opposite direction as fast as the conditions would safely allow. His mind fogged by the situation, he witnessed his friend in a death struggle with the massive bruin. Greg was kicking and shouting as the bear bit through his climbing boot easily. It redirected its rage on his lower leg and hoisted him precariously off the ground. Greg's frightened yells for help sent chills down his companion's back. Temporarily concerned for only his own safety, Nick considers self-preservation as he focuses on his own escape. After hearing his friend plead for his help, Nick builds his resolution to commitment to protect and defend his friend. He begins walking straight toward the grizzly, now bearing down on his friend once again. Suddenly, Nick's headlamp was filled with the terrified face of his companion. Greg had somehow managed to escape the bear's rage, and the two yelled and ran back along their initial trail. As they parted the dense undergrowth, they resolved to stay close and help each other. Terrified that the massive bear, now concealed by the darkness, might suddenly reemerge and continue its rage-filled attack, the men stumbled and slipped their way around the mountain for the better part of a quarter an hour, before the reality of their only escape path set in. Greg hastily repacked the climbing gear the pair knew they would need while Nick stood watch. Their only means of defense were their climbing axes held high in defiant defense of their lives and any threat to them. The two resolved their commitment to mutual defense. If they went down, they would go down fighting together. As they fled, the men were so confused they had followed the wrong trail and quickly became hopelessly lost. They took temporary shelter under a large, sturdy tree and discussed waiting for daybreak before finishing their descent. Greg offered the idea that the pair should climb the tree for protection, but Nick was deterred by the frigid conditions and his partner's injuries. They agreed that their only option was to get back down and reach safety as soon as possible. At this point, injured severely, Greg announced that they needed to get to the waypoint cliff and rappel down. He immediately threw himself over the short cliff above the area that they could rappel down, tumbling head over feet. Greg's outline was highlighted by puffs of powdered snow as he landed safely just below. Nick immediately followed suit in the near-suicidal leap. The two men were committed to getting to safety and to each other. By the grace of the mercy God has for fools, the two men stopped their out-of-control fall at the edge of a cliff. Their minds finally started to clear, and they realized they must return to the attack site to descend properly using their ropes and the other equipment to be safe. Greg was hesitant after all he'd been through, but Nick exerted his conviction, and the men finally agreed. The possible hopeless situation weighed heavily on both men. Before we conclude our tale of woe, we would like to invite you to like our videos and become a subscriber at Scary Bear Attacks so that you get notifications as soon as we release our next videos regarding the clash between man and bear. After navigating the ridiculous terrain, the men had found the point in their path that they had erred. They found the ropes. As Nick watched Greg clip onto the rope and start his descent off the cliff, Nick's vulnerability became a reality to him. He decided if he was charged by the bear, he would simply jump off the cliff, probably to his death, to avoid being attacked and mangled. Finally, Greg's triumphant announcement of his successful descent reached his ears, and Nick clipped in and quickly escaped the bear and its terror. The men began trudging down the trail as fast as the adrenaline would let them. Blood squirted out of the perforations in Greg's boot made by the bear's teeth and stained the snow along their trail. Reaching their last descent, Greg again clipped in as Nick defended the pair with their ice axes, still unsure if the bear was pursuing them. Completing their descent, the men clambered into the jeep just after the midnight hour, after about 5 hours after the attack. The friends drove straight to the hospital for treatment for Greg's injuries. After acute medical treatment, Greg eventually made a complete recovery and resumed his adventures.